Good evening out there in the interwebs. Sorry for running a little behind. Um, this is your boy Legionnaire with the Outpost. Welcome to the Outpost, a BGKH
This is your boy
joint,
Legionnaire
and
with the
we are
Outpost.
happy to see you
Welcome to
here.
the Outpost.
We're happy to see you, or at least I'm happy to have you here with me tonight. Been away for a minute, so I definitely apologize. Just life stuff happening and trying to keep up with things that are happening in my world and keeping current. But glad to be back here with you tonight for episode 4 of The Outpost. So I'm going to be catching you up on a little bit of what's been happening in my world and talk about some things that have been happening here recently in my world. So just to give you a quick catch up, I'm sure you've already heard about this from my Brista's Epic and Dominion, but all three of us are part of Onyx, and we recently celebrated 27 years of service to the love community at our event Blackout that took place in Fort Lauderdale in the early part of October. And it was a great event. We had a wonderful time. Brothers that hadn't been able to get together and see each other like this in a long time. So family came together, friends came together, supporters came together, um, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. We hadn't been able to get together like this in a while. It was supposed to happen before the world went crazy with the pandemic, but we were able to um, pull it together this year and have the celebration. So we had some events that were well received. Everybody had a good time. It was very good. Um, had some emotional moments. Had some really good. I mean, it was overall just a great time. Without going into too much detail, because I'm sure you guys have already heard this from Dominion, I'll just share some of my personal things around it. Um, hey, Eccentric, how you doing? Welcome. Good to see you, baby. I was there with my entire leather family, which was really good, which was really cool because we hadn't all been together in one space for a long time. So I'm going to take this moment to shout out my boy, Wayne Wonder, my little brother, Puma, my nephews, Jay and Treble, and definitely our family friends who are definitely family adjacent to the leather family, Jaeger Onyx, Daddy G, and Pup Carino, also known as Pledge Blaze, who is a current pledge of Onyx, part of my elemental line. Um, he came down there and represented for the pledge class, prospective member. He had a great time. So it was good. It was really good. Um, One of the highlights of that weekend for me was I was asked to participate in in an event that took place during our luncheon on Saturday, and it was called the Living Museum. So, just to give you a little bit of my own personal history, um, Onyx has been around for 27 years, and excuse me, I have been an active member of the organization for probably 26 of those 27 years, pretty much uninterrupted. The reality is that there's a lot of history there. So recognizing that or wanting to recognize that, I was asked to speak to something called that they called the Living Museum. So people are so used to hearing from people like our founders and of course our title holders who we select to represent us and things like that in the public eye. But being a person that tends to work behind the scenes and don't really seek the spotlight, although I don't run from it either, um, I was asked to share my perspective and my journey and some of the things that led me not only to leather but to onyx. So I had an opportunity um, to share that, and it was really a cool moment because I talked a little bit about what my leather journey was because I don't really tell a lot of people about that. Um, I came into leather in a very um, well, I'm not going to say old guard because I hate those terms, old guard and new guard. I find those terms polarizing, but I will say that I came into leather in a very traditional way. Um, I actually earned my first piece of leather. I started out as a leather boy, a leather sub. Um, I was living in Germany at the time, so I spoke a little bit to that, um, and how that journey kind of led me back to pursuing leather when I left the service. I was in the Air Force in Germany. I left the service, came back to the States, tried to explore leather here, and was kind of on the fence about it until I discovered Onyx through some very bizarre circumstances because I was actually participating in a event with another group called Onyx Images, which was in Omaha, Nebraska, of all places. But yeah, I found out about this club of at that time black men that were into leather, and I was like, wow, a group of black men into leather. That's going to be interesting to find out. So I looked them up. Um, Back in the day, it was snail mail and not necessarily email. So I sent them a letter, introducing myself, finding out where they were. They invited me to come and hang out with them, and the rest is history. Um, so I spoke to that, and it was really cool. So then they brought in other people who were, um, more closer to the present in terms of their leather journey and their connection to Onyx, and those were really good moments. So that was really important to me because even after speaking to those things, there were people that came up to me and let me know that they appreciated hearing from me, hearing my perspective, and things like that. So those are really nice moments for me. So definitely, again, want to shout out our Deep South brothers who put together a great event. Much love to all the brothers that showed up, all the supporters that showed up, all my family that showed up. It was a great event. We actually a bunch of us transitioned from that weekend to a week on a cruise that we did to the Dominican Republic um, directly afterwards, which was a blast. We had so much fun. A week on the seas. We did like beach excursions, and again, I'm sure you guys have heard about that from Dominion and Epic because they had to say something hat day, which I'm sure you saw pictures of. I personally didn't get the entire assignment, so I didn't quite get a chance to do my hat up the way I probably could have because I had a really expensive leather hat, and I was not going to put staples and tapes and all that kind of shit on my hat because it was looking way too fierce for all that. So I bought like a little leather crown that I kind of put on top of it so that I would have a crown, and that was it. But it was still a lot of fun. We had a great time, and for the next cruise, I'll be ready. So if we do another say something that day, I'll be better prepared, and I'll know the assignment for this one. So definitely shout out to my Bristas uh, for putting that together and spearheading that. We had such a good time on that cruise. We kind of took over one of the bars, the Alchemy Bar. I'm sure he mentioned that, and we had a good time. So um, you'll probably hear more about the cruise that they're that they're planning for next year. This one is going to be, I believe, on Royal Caribbean, and that's going to be the first week of October 2023. So I'm sure they'll tell you more about that. So definitely keep your eyes and ears out for that. That they'll be posting on all their social media. Of course, I apologize for not having that information in front of me to share, but I'm sure that you will hear it from them. Um, so yeah, that was really cool. um, some upcoming things that are going to be happening with me. Um, of course, for all of us geeks and Black woke folks out there, um, Black Panther or the Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, is going to be out next week and next Friday. And, I got the assignment for that. So I got my white outfit. I'm going to be wearing all white for the premiere. I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited. Um, I know a lot of people, or some people, some of the geeks that I know are kind of on the fence because, clearly with the death of Chadwick Boseman, um, the character, or at least his version of the Black Panther, um, will have passed on. The character of T'Challa will have passed on, and there will be changes that will reflect that. But there are a lot of things that are going to be really exciting about that too. So looking forward to the movie. It's going to be a lot of fun, regardless. I am a Marvel head and a Marvel supporter, so definitely encourage um, all of you geeks out there to give it the same kind of support and love that we gave to the original Black Panther, because it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good movie regardless. So let's all go and check that out. So here we go. We are going to, or I rather, am going to talk about um, a lot of stuff or something specific. I won't say a lot of stuff, but something specific that has happened in the community that has affected Onyx Midwest directly, and some of my brothers in the Onyx Midwest um, particularly. Um, so I was kind of on the fence of whether or not I was going to address it here. And I spoke to my little brother Puma, who is also the president of Onyx Midwest. So I got his permission to talk about it. So I want to talk about it. Eccentric, you said you're torn. Torn about what? Let me back up. Let me make sure I understand. You keep saying what, baby? Let me know what you're talking about. Um, but while I wait to hear from my brother, I will say that we recently, or some of my brothers actually recently participated in our home bar Touche um, celebration, celebrating their 45th anniversary. So every year, we show up as a group to celebrate Touche, who's been a big supporter of ours. I mean, it's our home bar. Um, the event is usually very nice, very well attended, and a lot of fun. This year, because I'm still settling into my new apartment and things like that, I didn't make the time. Just because I don't want our churches closed. Hopefully they can. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna get to that, eccentric, because yeah, um, I have a lot of thoughts on that. So anyway, just to break it down, um, during this celebration, they had a entertainer. I'll call him an entertainer, um, Jerry Holiday. Don't know if I necessarily want to give him press, but I definitely do want to identify this uh, entertainer as somebody who definitely created an issue or created a problem, um, who had a show or put on a performance um, with puppets, something that he's done apparently in other venues at other places or whatever. And this particular puppet was a caricature of a black woman called Sister Girl, um, which kind of is the beginning of the problem right there. Now, I will say that I have a particular tolerance for certain types of humor, and I didn't find the puppet necessarily in and of itself to be problematic. Although it was kind of like, Sister Girl, really? Is that what we want to call her? Whatever. However, upon hearing, and I wasn't there, so I can't say how it landed to the folks that were there, or how it even would have landed for me had I been there. I'm just speaking on what my general impression would have been, had I seen his website or whatever. And I had seen the advertisements that had his different puppets there too, but I didn't really make note of that. But in this performance, Sister Girl was had a very exaggerated um, ethnicized way of speaking. Was very Oh, trying to think of the right word. And I had all my thoughts together, and I just don't have the right word. But it was very stereotypical, very, but not in a good way. I mean, sometimes you can make fun of stereotypes, and it can be funny. But what the little bit that I saw online, and certainly what I heard directly from the people that are close to me that were there, this was not this was not that at all. Some people were already put off by the puppet, which I definitely understand. But certainly once his act got rolling, and people were starting to hear a lot of the misogyny, a lot of the transphobia, a lot of the racially charged comments and jokes that were a part of his act, it definitely got to a place where people started to walk out. Which totally makes sense because you know, hindsight is 2020, and I can certainly speculate as to what I would have done, but I'll feel pretty safe in saying that in what I have seen, I would have not only supported um, my brothers who have walked out, I probably would have walked out with them. Um, Having walked out, having had those people walk out, there was also a friend of ours, of somebody that I knew personally, that I saw in a video that actually attempted to speak. Well, I take that back. He wasn't necessarily speaking directly to the performer, but he certainly was speaking about the performance and how problematic he thought it was. The entertainer heard him, and this guy Mike spoke up and said, "Hey, in 2022, is this really the act that you want to be doing?" So the entertainer Jerry, I guess, yeah, um, got put out and was basically treating Mike like a heckler, responding to him, and not even responding to him necessarily professionally, in my opinion. He got very hostile, cursed at the man, kind of tried to elicit the crowd to also um, give him a hard time, and basically was, to my mind, pretty dismissive of his comments, as to what he was saying. So he continued on with his set and ended it, and then even went so far as to solicit tips from the crowd, which the manager of Touche at the time, and the person running the event follow through with. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how it went, and it got to be really, really um, uncomfortable. I mean, it was certainly uncomfortable to the point that one of the barbacks quit into, not even, I guess, very shortly into the set. He saw the puppet was uncomfortable, then started to hear his performance, and basically, took off his keys, handed them, or left them with the manager, left them on his desk, and quit on the spot because he was uncomfortable. And so yeah, that's really saying something. Again, not having been there, but hearing all of this, it's like, okay, this was a big deal. Um, so yeah, so of course the next day, Facebook blows up, social media blows up, and this has now become a thing. It has now become a thing because people were offended, and not only was the not only was the act offensive, but the sense was that the management and other patrons, um, like patrons, weren't very sensitive to the fact that this guy was offending a great deal of the audience that was there, and that's definitely a problem. Um, if you're not aware enough, and you're not taking notice of what's happening. So, of course, Twitter blew up. Um, Luckily, someone had the presence of mind to get this stuff on video, even though they were asked not to record anything during the performance. Um, but they did. They did. They caught it on video, so the receipts are out there. showing exactly what happened so people can see for themselves what happened. Um, so yeah, but so of course, what follows is uh, the shitstorm that always kind of follows when these kinds of things happen. People ready to, boycott the bar, shut it down, have the man fired, all kinds of things, um, and the like. And I think what ended up happening in the firestorm is that Onyx Midwest, kind of the premier, I guess, leather club that calls Touche home, was kind of put in the position of okay, as a community, this needs to be addressed, and we're in the position of leading how that's going to look for the community. What it is that we have to say. Because our president was there, or we had officers there, we had members there. Um, so yeah, what is going to be our response? So of course, our president, his phone's blowing up. My even my messages are blowing up, my DMs are blowing up, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to address this? In the meantime, people are saying, they tried to tell David, or tried to let him know that this was problematic. Why didn't he do anything? He should have done this. He should have done that. Um, so yeah, we're put in a very um, awkward position to say, okay, what is it that we want to do? There have been clubs that have pulled their colors from the bar. There have been clubs that, refuse to do any business, or at least are threatening to not do any business until, this man is fired. Um, and the like. But I want to speak, not necessarily as a member of Onyx, although I am a longtime member of Onyx, certainly, and member of Onyx Midwest. But as a Leatherman of color, somebody who knows, um, who has more of a historical reference in terms of the support that we've gotten from Touche and from David Boyer in particular. Um, as with any business relationship, there have been ups and downs. It hasn't been perfect. There have been challenges, and there have been challenges probably with how David has related to a number of folks that he's worked with over the years. Um, but at the end of the day, for me, again, I'm speaking for myself. Um, this is a man who has been very supportive of Onyx in our early days. Back when this club first formed and we were looking for a home bar, um, when David worked at Touche, he opened his arms to us, made us welcome. We were able to call Cell Block home. And when Cell Block closed and he moved to Touche, he welcomed us there as well. And he has been a huge support of ours throughout the years. And for the most part, we've had a very good working relationship. Um, he's been made an honorary member. We definitely recognized him as such. And, so that really put us in an awkward position of how we're going to address this situation. Um, but what I will say is that, speaking personally, and with someone that has a history with David is a very, I guess we would say, an old school Leatherman. Um, this is not something that I'm saying to excuse what happened, or to justify what happened, or anything like that. What happened was a problem. It was definitely an issue. It was definitely a misstep to the community. It was definitely an insult and offense to the community, and that deserves to be recognized and acknowledged. And there needs to be accountability for that. That is without question. Now, do I think that the man needs to lose his job, or that the bar needs to be shut down? No, I don't believe that. I don't I just I don't believe that because I think any of us um, should be allowed to be larger and better than the mistakes we make in our lives. Um, and that misstep to me um, can't outweigh the good that he's done for the community up until now. I just don't. I just personally don't believe that. Um, and just as you say, eccentric. We don't need to have our churches be shut down because there's so few of them left. So I just don't believe that that's the answer. Boycotting the bar and having the man fired or whatever, that to me that doesn't solve the problem. That's just a knee-jerk reaction to punish somebody who made a mistake. And I don't think that that's a good idea. I think that there's an opportunity for dialogue. There's an opportunity for education. Um, and I think that there's a way to respond to it um, that can be very positive. I want to share a couple of things, I'm going to share something that came from my brother Jaeger Onyx. He When this happened, he reached out to David directly and let him know that hey, what happened was not a good thing. Was fucked up. And he got a response. He got a response from David, and I'm going to share. And I got John's permission to share that exchange from David. And I want you all to hear it because um, I think it's important because of course, David put out something publicly for on their social media to address the situation and to apologize. And of course, we got the people that jumped on it and was like, "Oh, it's a pat answer. He didn't mean it. It wasn't sincere." And that's a very knee jerk reaction, an emotion. And again, eccentric, you're right, an emotional reaction, and it doesn't address the fact that this man is human just like anybody else. So what I want to read, the apology that David sent directly to Jaeger, I want to share. Um, so give me just a moment to pull it up. Um, Jaeger, thank you for reaching out to us regarding tonight's party. Please understand that we regret any offense that you or anyone else may have felt at tonight's entertainment during our anniversary party. It was not our intent to make our guests feel uncomfortable or offended. We believed our puppeteer was keeping current on comedy norms that may have progressed over the ensuing years regarding racial, religious, or cultural stereotypes as he's continually booked at various venues across the country. Obviously, this was not the case. We sincerely and most humbly apologize that this entertainment choice to mark our anniversary left you feeling as you do. It was not our intent to create an unwelcoming environment for anyone at Touche. Please accept our most serious regrets in the error in programming. We have and will continue to work hard to make this space more welcoming to all people, regardless of their racial, ethnic, sexual, or gender identities. Your feedback is noted and appreciated if we are to make that a reality here. We could not have remained in business here for the past 45 years if that were not a core purpose of our business. I hope that you will allow us the opportunity to prove our resolve in going forward and not permit this one night to overshadow your feelings towards the bar. David Boyer. And that was a little different than what David posted to the community, which I will read. Um, and this is what Touche posted on their social media. Greetings, friends. Last night at Touche's 45th anniversary celebration, puppeteer Jerry Holiday included racist and transphobic puppets and jokes in his act. We deeply regret not vetting the entertainer prior to the event. We apologize for not reacting and stopping the show. People were harmed by his words. Racism and transphobia are wrong. We need to do better. Touche will continue to upgrade our awareness of and responses to racism, sexism, and transphobia. We are currently exploring ways to address the harm that was caused. We have and will continue to work hard to make this space more welcoming to all people, regardless of their racial, ethnic, sexual, or gender identities. Um, your feedback is noted, and we appreciate that. And appreciate it if we are to make that a reality. We are planning for a community gathering at the Leather Archives and Museum at 7 p.m. next Wednesday, November 9th, where members of our community can express their concerns and help us explore ways to do a better job. We hope that you will allow us the opportunity to prove our resolve in going forward and not permit this one night to overshadow the service that Touche has provided to our community for 45 years. So, that's what he said. Um and I was challenged because, as a business, obviously he needs to respond. And, people are saying, oh, that was just a pat answer. Oh, that wasn't heartfelt. And it's like, well, how do you know that? How do you assume that? Do you know the man? Have you had a direct conversation with the man? Or do you just know what you've heard and what you've read on the internet? Because that's very different than having a conversation with somebody, having a talk with somebody to say, hey, this was fucked up. you know help us understand where your head was. I hear people say, hey, well, he should have vetted or he should have known better. How can you say that? How can you actually know that? There's also been shared that there was rehearsals where he saw what the act was. Okay, but seeing the act and understanding how harmful it was or how harmful it could be, again, are two very different things. So he could, it's not hard to understand or see how he could not necessarily be aware of how this will be received by the crowd. Does it excuse it? I'm not saying that it excuses it. I'm not saying that it justifies it. I'm not saying that that makes it okay. I'm just saying that there are different ways to look at the situation. And I'm not convinced that this man doesn't deserve some grace. I'm just not convinced of that. Now, if there was this long pattern and documentation of him being hateful and ignorant or whatever, then yeah, I can see that. But the reality is that's not my experience, and that's not the experience of a lot of people that I know. Have other people had negative experiences with him? Uh, so it's said. And I'm certainly not taken away from their experiences. If their experiences with him were negative and they choose to share those experiences, then again, I will never ever be in a position where I'm going to deny anybody's experience or anybody's pain and not validate that. But that's not my experience. That's not what I know of the man. He's always been very supportive of me personally, and certainly of Onyx in particular. That's just the way it is. Um, I think that there's an opportunity for growth that I hope um, this town hall that'll happen on the 9th will be able to address and be taken care of. Um, Onyx Midwest is putting together a response. Um, I'll go ahead and drop really quickly what our president Puma put out on social media. Um, Family, we are aware of what happened at Touche last night. We are affected by it, and it will not go without being addressed. That being said, the leadership of Onyx Midwest, both current and upcoming, met today to discuss our full response and our next steps. We will be completing a full response within the next few days to address the community and the people involved that allowed this to happen. We will also host an emergency General Assembly meeting to communicate to the leadership to communicate to you the leadership's suggestions and hear your feedback. Um, so just want to be clear that as an organization, Onyx Midwest is going to address the situation, and um, we want to be in a position where we're going to do what's best for the community, and make sure that our response is well thought out and intentional. Um, because we want to serve the community as we've been serving the community for the last 27 years. So we want to do what's best for us, what's best for the community, what's best for the bar. So having this town hall and participating in this town hall is is going to be really important to at least be able to have a dialogue so that there can be some education on everybody's part. And I think it's very important that we focus on that. Um, because I don't think David is a bad guy. I don't think he's racist. I don't think he's transphobic. Could it be said that he's a little out of touch? That could be said. That could be said. To be fair, that could very well be said. And has he had clashes with other individuals? Again, I can't speak to anybody else's experience. I can only speak to mine. But again, I will gladly validate anybody's experience that they want to share with him. And if it been positive, great. And if it's been negative, great. That, well, not great, but certainly acknowledged. But I think we need to be in a space where accountability can be had. And I don't think that can happen if all we're doing is trying to cancel him and shut down the bar. How does that make him accountable? How does that make the bar accountable? All we're doing is pushing to shut down another space that can be a safe space for leather folks. If it's not safe right now, let's do the work and put them in a position to do the work so that it is a safe space for us. That's the bigger issue. That's the bigger picture for me. If it's not a safe space now, let's make it a safe space. Let's challenge him to make it a safe space. And to me, to my mind, that's what this town hall is about. Maybe he wants to challenge himself and to accept the challenge of making it a safe space by hearing what our suggestions are as a community. Hey, you know what? I fucked up. This was really bad. What is it that I can do to make sure that you understand that this is a safe space for leather folks? Not just white leather folks, but all leather folks of color. Our trans brothers and sisters. Let's have that conversation. That's what I'd like to do. Um, but I do want to circle back really quickly because Jaeger also sent a. Uh, he reached out to Jerry Holiday directly, and I liked what he had to say. So again, I got his permission to share this as well. Um, he actually sent this to this guy's website. Um, I was at your recent performance for the Touche anniversary party. I was stunned to see you come out with a puppet who perpetuates every insulting, ugly stereotype of a Black woman, especially in 2022 in Chicago. She evoked my memories of every blackface minstrel show I've seen from the 1940s. Much worse than that, Touche is the home bar to Onyx, the national leather club by men of color for men of color. So many of my Black brothers were in the audience. I get that this act might still be funny to white people in Las Vegas. Yet, in a city that can be as racist as Chicago, I believe that it's time to bury that kind of stereotypical and hurtful humor, especially since you're a white male performer. As a white man, I get all the rationalizing we can do about keeping racist traditions. But as an associate member of Onyx, I can't bear to see my brother's mothers, aunts, grandmothers, and sisters mocked in such a callous way that perpetuates such tired stereotypes. I'm sure you could update your act and inject it with some current humor that is not at the expense of my beloved brothers. I couldn't let this go without bringing it to your attention. From my perspective, you are a guest in our house and you completely disrespected at least half of our family. I hope you will take the time to understand and do better. Your art is a precious tradition that has no need to be associated with such a racist culture of comedy. I'd be happy to chat further about this if you'd find it helpful. Thank you for listening. Best, Jaeger Onyx. I love that. I love that exchange. I love what he put together um, because again, it speaks to it speaks to having invoking and prompting a conversation and not responding purely out of emotion. Yes, was it upsetting? Was it offensive? Absolutely. But you can get your point across without attacking, without bashing somebody over the head. Now, if this guy is content with his act as it is and wants to continue doing what he's doing, then that's great. From what I hear, a lot of his puppets, have become problematic for people in the community. I think he's got one called Twink Boy that some of the gays don't like because the stereotypes around twinks, whatever that is. Again, let me back up because I don't want to invalidate people's feelings around that. Um, so but if he's not in a position where he wants to update his act and make it more, I guess, palatable for audiences, then that's certainly his prerogative. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess the upshot of it is I don't want to see this situation get more angered and out of control than it already has. Um, I really want us to step back, um, and not ignore the emotion, but let's temper it with a little bit of grace and a little bit of understanding, and of the um, step outside the anger and disappointment of it, and really try to understand that this is a venue or a bar, and an individual that has been of service to the community for quite a long time, and that has to count for something. I just feel that it has to count for something. You know, uh, was a mistake made? Yes, and I'm certainly not saying that we need to ignore that, or excuse it, or even necessarily forgive it right away. But let's speak to it in a way that will allow education to happen, and course correction to happen, and accountability to happen. I don't think accountability can be had if all we're thinking about is how we punish. How do we punish the bar? How do we punish David Boyer? What does that accomplish? You rob the man of making a living, and you rob the business, of its living, and then you rob the community of a resource and a safe space. Does that really serve the community? I personally don't think so. Um, there's not a lot of leather spaces in Chicago. Um, Touche is one of them, and I think we need to try to preserve it. Um, and I think we need to try and educate this man who has been of service to the community for a long time. And if there are missteps that have happened, let's be very clear on what those missteps were and say, hey, this is what we want to do to make sure that this does not happen again. And let's give him the opportunity to speak to his contrition. Something that's not able to be conveyed necessarily in a Facebook post, or a Twitter post, or whatever, or even an email response. This town hall is going to happen. You know, let's get out there. Let's get out there in front of him. Express our concerns. Let him see the pain in our faces. Let him see the disappointment that happened. Let him see it, and then let us see what his response is. Let us see if there's contrition in his voice and in his eyes and in his demeanor, and see if he's really ready and prepared to make amends to the community. My thoughts, my opinion. So, um, yeah, that's not quite how I intended my return to the interwebs to go. But this was really important. Again, since it is out there on social media and has become a bit of a firestorm, I really wanted to speak to it. not only as a leather man of color, but certainly as a longtime member of Onyx. Um, somebody that really not only supports the bar and supports the manager, but definitely supports my brothers who unfortunately had to experience this event by being there and being in a position where they felt like they needed to leave. I think that's probably what hurt me the most. I mean, obviously, the fact that it happened was bad, but my little brother had a very he had a very good tenure as president of Onyx Midwest, and I hope he'll forgive me for sharing this. But I just don't. I hate that this is how his tenure as president is going to end, having to deal with this. It's fucked up. It's not how his tenure, as great as it's been up until now, should have to end. Having to deal with this, having to deal with this kind of controversy. Um, so it is what it is. We're going to take care of it. The and Yeah, centric. I mean, that's the thing that's blowing my mind. It has blown. I mean, it has really blown up. I mean, the Chicago Tribune has an article about it. There are a couple of other um, local blogs that have gone on record to talk about it. The Advocate is talking about it. I mean, it's really out there and becoming a thing. So yeah, this upcoming town hall is going to be a huge deal. So I think what I'm going to do as a follow up, um, next week Outpost will address what happened at that town hall. Hopefully, unfortunately I don't know that I'm going to be able to attend um, in person, but I'm hoping that my little brother and our current president Puma will attend, and I'm going to ask him to be on the podcast with me on Thursday to talk about what happened, what the next steps are. I mean, as an organization, we definitely have a plan of what we want to do. I mean, we'll share that when we're ready to put that out there to social media and to the public, and we definitely have some demands that we're going to make as well. So hopefully, we're going to get an opportunity to put all that out there. Hopefully, it's going to be well received. So yeah, I think that'll be my plan for the next episode of the Outpost. Sorry, we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to try and have Puma, if not Puma, then definitely somebody from Onyx Midwest who was there and can definitely speak to what happened. What the ins and out were. What the discussions were, and what any next steps are that came out of it. So yeah, let's keep it positive. Um, keep talking, having some good discussions, some um, productive discussions about it, and hopefully, I'll be able to come back next week and tell you guys what has happened. Hopefully, we'll get some good results and some things that'll put them on notice and definitely see what the accountability is from the bar and from the management. Um, in the meantime, thank you all for being here and for listening to me rant and rave and talk about that. Um, thank you guys for being here. Um, good to see you, Wayne. Um, love you as always. Thank you. Eccentric brother, thank you for being here with me tonight and speaking up. So yeah, keep following me here as a contributor on the BGKH network. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week. You can find me on Facebook, Legionnaire Onyx. I am on uh, Twitter and Instagram, Legion Onyx. If you guys want to hit me up and just say hello or whatever. And again, look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a good evening. Stay safe. Be well, and love each other. Bye.